Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm I'm in between you and your lunch, so I will try to make it as interesting as possible. This is a great topic to talk about compliance, right? Um, Let me move on to the slides. Just a step back in terms of evolution of compliance and cybersecurity. I'm not going to talk about the old world. We all know what's happening. What's happening now and what's needed now is what I'm going to focus on, right? When you look at what are customers looking at as a priority, I will jot down 4 of those things, nothing in an hierarchical order, but it's very common which customers are looking at. One is focus on zero trust. Why is zero trust important currently today? It is surely because whatever migration happens from on-prem to cloud, zero trust can be a guardrail in terms of the entire architecture framework to drive this migration from edge to cloud. And that is where zero trust is an important part. Threat vectors are immensely changing and it's becoming different forms, right? So how are the customers tackling the threat vectors by being a step ahead of the hackers? That is the second most important point. The third one is about the infusion of AI. Today, security operations is highly acceptable from infusion of AI. It actually provides a lot of benefits in terms of automations and so on and so forth by bringing in intelligent security operations. And that is another thing which customers are focusing currently today. Last but not the least, compliances have gone through the sky, right? It's basically the number of updates the compliance and regulatory standards are having on a day-to-day basis is huge. And that is what we are going to cover in detail in the following slides as I go by. Big numbers, 220 regulatory updates on a daily basis. I'm telling you, this is huge. And there are reasons for why it is happening currently today. Business models have changed drastically, as all of you know. That is not the only thing. Another big thing about regulatory standards changing is the acceptance of various governments and industries. In the past, we used to say certain industries are highly regulated. No more can you say it is an highly regulated. All industries need regulations. And regulations is a way of adhering to compliance and restricting your threat exposure. So that acceptance has gone sky roof. And to add on to it, the governments are building the governing standards and bodies to keep a check on it. If you look at the curveball has been on AI, right? With AI coming in, AI is like a superhero with great powers. If not monitored and governed, it can go rogue. And that is where responsible AI is becoming a key important facet. And the governments are really dipping into it to see how can I govern it better. For example, EU AI Act is the first one to come. Similarly, US cybersecurity strategy is another one which actually looks at governing AI and which will continue to improve as well. If you go far right, Singapore has come out with an OT and manufacturing master plan. It's an act for looking at AI. Now, when you look at it, it's across geographies, US, Europe, Asia Pacific. Everybody is building this. When they are coming into this, as a result, the number of regulations are increasing. With the increase in regulations, the number of updates per day is increasing. And I'll tell you, it's humanly impossible for any organization to keep an update in terms of what are the changes which are happening and how do I adhere to it. And that is a problem which we will sort it out, and I will share more about it as I go in the following slides. But very important point for all of you to note, it is not about regulations increasing. If you look at cost of compliance operations is also increasing, because if you have to monitor and manage, the cost of the operations is increasing. That is where 30% overall cost is going big in terms of compliance operations. There's a way to address this. I will talk about it in my following slides. When you look at the customer challenges, it's an interesting way how we look at various challenges which are rising, right, currently. First one is, I would say, we'll pick the point about compliance, right? Compliance, since it's going big, how are you going to manage? That is the first big challenge. We will talk in detail. The next one is about AI. And today, when you look at, before you get into AI, People say security operations is difficult, right? Yeah, it is difficult. It has been there for decades in terms of managed services and security operations and so on and so forth. There are problems. I'm not going to say it's a red carpet. There are problems. But today, what customers are looking at is how can I get AI as a part of security operations to make it intelligent, or intelligent security operations to address one of the challenges. To give you all a case in point and an example, for example, the L1, L2 operations, which happens in security, can we look at automating the entire L1 process by a self-help process, bringing in intelligence into it? It can be done. The best thing is when you do that, faster time to react to a threat or an exposure actually increases drastically. The next one is playbooks. We have all been in the industry of security, building playbooks to cater to your day-to-day needs and how are the security analysts taking care. Today, the need of the hour is about, can we build playbooks on the fly? That is another way to address the AI and security operations. So these are a number of things, but we will get deeper into compliance, right? So this is a cluttered slide, but it's an important slide. While you go through it, I'll explain this. This is a solution which Wipro and AWS has jointly built together using AWS toolsets, Wipro's frameworks to look at continuous controls monitoring and management. And this solution is called as a Cloud Compliance Shield. When you look at the solution, the way it works, fundamentally, this portion number one, right? The bedrock over here, let me get those things over here. Yeah, the bedrock actually plays a key role in the first step. We spoke about regulations changing on a continuous basis. Bedrock actually goes and sniffs about what are those regulations, what are the changes which is happening, picks up those particular details, right? Once it picks up, it parses it through Vega and Arc. These are two frameworks, which is Wipro's unique frameworks. Vega is the Gen AI framework from Wipro. Arc is again an automated regulatory compliance framework to Wipro. It parses the updates in terms of whatever regulatory updates has happened through these two frameworks. What does these two frameworks do? They actually look at what is relevant for an organization. Let's take organization X, what is relevant, and creates an UCF, right, for that particular organization. This UCF gets parsed into the data correlation engine. I will come to what happens over here, but let me talk about what is data correlation engine. Data correlation engine on the left of it looks at a customer's, what are the technical controls he or she has it on the cloud, be it on a cloud or multiple clouds, right? That is the technical controls. It actually looks at what are those technical controls. Evidence database has got many functions in it. One of the functions is non-technical controls. How do you actually store the non-technical controls and look at in unison for an organization to adhere to compliance? So this evidence database actually stores the details about non-technical controls which an organization needs to adhere to. It can be a process control, etc., etc. What it needs to adhere. That gets parsed into the data correlation engine. Now, what do I have? I have technical controls to my left. I have the non-technical controls from my right, all coming together. The UCF actually gets played onto it to look at what are those controls specific to your organization, where is the gap currently today. That is what happens in the data correlation engine. Once the mapping happens, then it moves on to the evidence and artifacts. This has got multiple places. Let me tell you what all it does. After the mapping is done, it looks at what are the gaps in terms of the controls currently today for a customer, makes the entire evidence report which is needed for audit. Then parallelly it pushes onto the third-party controls and native controls to actually mitigate those particular gaps. And that is a self-help, right? I'm totally talking without a human in place, right? It's self-help. When you look at finally, it remediates and then gets the report of remediation back to this evidence database and the overall repository so that it can be pushed to the business and IT teams of a customer's organization. So a customer, a line of business head could see what were the risks he was running and what has got mitigated. I'm telling you, this is the need of the hour. Today, a CISO How is he justifying the risk he's protecting for an organization? This is one of the ways how we can justify about the risk he's protecting for the organizations, right? So that goes to the line of business. Finally, these are the single pane of glass. I'll come to single pane of glass, right? You have various reports, you can keep customizing it. Today, there is no solution in the industry which provides a single pane of glass for complete top-down risk view of an organization, be it on a cloud, multi-cloud, on-prem, hybrid, right? Today, there's no solution. And this is one way to get your overall risk exposure for an organization on a single pane of glass. This is called Cloud Compliance Shield, which is built tightly in unison along with AWS and Wipro together. I'll give you a case study, quick case study. I know I'm running short of time, but it's going to be quick. We are working with a large financial customer who's got operations across 50 plus countries currently today, right? And he's going through this particular challenge about how do I keep up with those regulations across countries, across the lines of business, across geographies. What am I going to do? Today, we are actually deploying this solution, and we have started small because you can't take everything in a single platter and say, day one, you're adherent and compliant. We are doing this in a phase-wise approach. The phase-wise, we have picked up the top 3 liable things he's going to go through. One of the liable thing which he's going to go through is on the PCI mandate, which he needs to adhere to. We have picked up PCI and another set of regulatory needs. So what happens is, Bedrock actually goes and checks about the PCI. What are the latest updates? Let's say you're on 4.x or 5.x, whatever you are on. It looks at if there is an increment. If there is an increment, pushes it to this unified control framework. Vega and R converts this, the regulatory control to an IT control, pushes it down, looks at how it can be pushed to all those relevant endpoints and relevant infrastructure within a customer for adherence of PCI. This is just a case in point, I'm telling you, right? This is the need of the hour which we are working with many customers and talking to many customers now. This is another benefit. I spoke to you about a financial customer. I'm sure some of you are there or many of you are there. Today, the biggest time spent is on audit lifecycle management. Numerous number of audits, right? You can have automated process, but is it fully automated currently today? It is not. And with the complexities, what I spoke to you about the regulation changes, audits have also become continuous. And as a result of it, any failure in audit is a liability. How do you take care? Today, an audit ranges anywhere between 3+ months. And then if you're across different countries, different LOBs, so many audits, types of different audits needs to happen, right? That is one problem we are trying to sort between the 5 steps of audit, from discovery all the way to remediation and revalidate the findings. This is what Cloud Compliance Shield is doing because it's totally integrated, right? It's a single map in terms of looking at what's happening at regulation, what do you have, and where are your gaps, and how are you remediating it. That is what we are trying to do in real time. This is another big benefit. There are numerous benefits, I will talk about it, but this is one big benefit for a customer which we are trying to attack as of now. We have come to the slide about solution benefits, right? Drastically reduces the time to mitigate compliance gap. Yes, if you have automated the end-to-end life cycle, it reduces anywhere between 70 to 75% in terms of your time to reduce your audit gaps and any of those gaps in terms of remediation. The next point is a very, very important point, right? I spoke to you about 30% cost increase in terms of compliance operations. I'll tell you, with Cloud Compliance Shield, we are looking at cost savings of 70% in terms of compliance operations. And we are automating further more and more and more, right? How can we increase this to a next level? Reducing human errors and also having reports, just-in-time reports as and when needed for your internal audit, external audit, and for whatever your risk reporting, and so on and so forth, right? Today, we have around 27 regulatory standards as a part of the entire solution. We are continuously onboarding more. Certain things are very customer specific. For example, we are working with a customer in Middle East. He's got a very specific need, so we are adding very specific needs for him. Australia's got a specific regulatory need. We are working with the Australian customer to add that particular regulatory standard as well, right? Now, there are many other things which has got the solution benefits. For example, we have around 1200 plus cloud security control checks, which is curated, right? It is so important because these are the ones actually reduces your time to check, remediate, and stay compliant. What does it solve? This is the kind of a summary. What does it solve for you? It solves your pain area of staying compliant to your regulatory and standards and compliance needs as an organization. Reduces your time to detect as well as respond and detect, right? Which reduces drastically. Thus reduces your risk exposure, because if you're staying compliant, you're also reducing your potential threat exposure. That is another thing which actually helps in. Overall, apart from that, it brings in Gen AI and AI with a scalable module which actually fastens the time and also gets in greater scalability of data as well, right? Last but not the least, right, it does brings the cost down in terms of a compliance operations for customers across, right? This is what Cloud Compliance Shield does. Who's Wipro on a one slide? We are a large organization from cybersecurity point of view, 8,000 plus people globally, known for our IPs and frameworks, what we can get, value add and accelerate for our customers currently today. And that is what we are doing with AWS. This is the third consecutive year we have built something along with AWS. And there is one more announcement which I can't reveal now. Today we should wait for Ruba Bruno's announcement in the afternoon. We have done something very unique with AWS, and that's going to get announced this afternoon. But the last 2 years, we have done the Cloud Compliance Shield. The year before that, we were the part of their security data lake build as well, right? So we are an integral part of AWS innovation, co-innovating together and taking to our customers currently today. I have a short video to play for you, which summarizes whatever I spoke in the last 17 minutes.
Chief compliance and risk officers are facing unprecedented challenges in maintaining organizational compliance. With over 220 daily regulatory changes, organizations can no longer rely on manual systems for tracking and reporting. As a result, they find themselves unable to adequately address risk management and compliance requirements, or to furnish key stakeholders with visibility into security and compliance status. Additionally, regulatory inspections are time-consuming, taking up to 3 to 4 months, as well as being burdensome and prone to human errors. All of these compliance challenges require an integrated approach. Wipro and AWS are working together to solve these security and compliance challenges with Wipro Cloud Compliance Shield, powered by AWS, a robust end-to-end solution delivering automatic and real-time reporting. Wipro Cloud Compliance Shield gives customers visibility of their compliance and security posture in real time to proactively assess and mitigate risks, enhance data protection, and ensure compliance. The solution leverages the latest in generative AI and ML with Amazon Security Lake and Amazon Bedrock to adapt to regulatory updates and revisions with minimal human intervention. This enables customers in healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, and retail industries the ability to track and report based on global and regional regulatory requirements. Wipro Cloud Compliance Shield has many benefits. It reduces time to assess and mitigate compliance gaps, provides real-time security and compliance posture of the multi-cloud environment, generates cleaner data for both executives and regulatory agency reviews, and delivers self-healing capabilities with auto-remediation of security issues in cloud environments. Learn more about how Wipro and AWS can solve your risk and compliance challenges with Wipro Cloud Compliance Shield.
Thank you. Thank you for being with me. I'm sure this is triggering thoughts. If you need any more details, we are right over here. But also, if any one of you is free, please do join us at Neon Museum this evening, where close to 40 plus CISOs are meeting with us to do a peer sharing, as well as to hear more on it, right? We are keen to share more details with you. You're all welcome. Whoever wants greater details on the product or today's evening's reception at Neon, we have people from Wipro who can share more with you. Thank you. Thanks for your time.